Hello everybody and welcome back to Serious Sunday. My name is Luke, I am your host, and this is the show where I talk about video games and things. And this week, I'm coming to you with just a little bit of mergers and acquisitions news. Coming to you from Vivendi, the company that is fairly well known for buying video game companies and driving them straight into the ground. A media conglomerate that just doesn't seem to understand interactive media. I don't get it personally. The target of their interests this week, Ubisoft, a company which they were already a fairly large percentage owner of, but now, as of Thursday, they have announced that they have managed to acquire a good 25% of stock in Ubisoft. If you're not quite familiar how stocks work in general, if a company owns more than any other company or any other individual, then they have the highest number of votes on company ownership through what's generally known as a board of directors. Vivendi is already on the board of directors, but has less executive power than, presumably, the primary executive members of Ubisoft. But if they manage to buy enough stock, then Vivendi will become the de facto owner of Ubisoft in what is known as a hostile takeover. This comes right on the heels of news that Ubisoft is now embroiled in yet another scandal as high-ranking members of their executive team have been caught red-handed performing insider trading, as according to the French stock market, and have collectively been fined more than $1.6 million in fines. Things aren't looking very good for the creators of Assassin's Creed, Watch Dogs, Rayman, and many other video games. Generally speaking, I don't think it's any real secret that I'm fairly critical of Ubisoft. I think they've made a lot of very terrible business decisions over the course of the many years that they've been in business, not least of which being their awful implementation of DRM through the Uplay service. But considering the track record of Vivendi, I would not wish that on any video game company. If you're not one to follow video game stock news, and you wouldn't necessarily be blamed for such, the reason that I say such things is that Vivendi has not got a very good track record in their acquisitions and subsequent management of video game companies. Perhaps their greatest success was in the acquisition of Blizzard Entertainment from CUC International, where they went on to build the still wildly successful World of Warcraft MMO. But for fans of classic adventure games, and I'm pretty sure that anybody who watches this channel on the regular will be fairly familiar with my love of the point-and-click adventure game, they were also the owners of Sierra Online and Sierra Entertainment, the company that created basically all of the major point-and-click adventure games that had the word quest in it. Space Quest, King's Quest, Quest for Glory, the Colonel's Bequest. I know that one isn't really a quest name, but what are you going to do? And many, many others. Vivendi having acquired a controlling stake in Sierra Online as of 1998, which coincided surprisingly and perhaps coincidentally with the first major decline of the point-and-click adventure game, when they shifted the company's focus from point-and-click adventure games, which was their bread and butter, to essentially arcade games and first-person shooters. It was at this time that Sierra Entertainment actually also published Half-Life, which they promptly lost the ownership rights to back to Valve, the company that created them, which we all now know as the company that created Steam. During their 10 years of ownership of the Sierra brand, it was in a constant state of decline until they eventually closed up the brand altogether, and eventually it was sold off as a minor part in the acquisition by many of their video game assets by Activision, when Activision Blizzard had their merger back in 2008. Vivendi Games also had a mobile studio, which had one hit in 2006 and promptly ceased operations in 2009, and also acquired Fox Interactive in March 2003, which was then shut down again 3 years later in 2006. As you can see, not a stellar track record. So what do we stand to see if Vivendi does get a controlling stake in Ubisoft? Well, this could all be just alarmist. I'm fully willing to admit that there's a good chance that Vivendi gaining major stock ownership in Ubisoft won't change things very much at all. And who knows? It's not like Ubisoft has always made great business decisions on their own. Maybe Vivendi would even manage to slap some sense into them and finally get them to look into doing something about that Uplay service that is just so god-awful all of the time. Regardless, though, if history is destined to repeat itself, then it would be a damn shame, to be honest, to see Ubisoft go the way of the dodo, the way of Sierra and Fox Interactive, until somebody with even more money, like Activision did with Blizzard, comes along, picks them up, and does something good with them. I may be overly critical of Ubisoft, but I am a fan of the Assassin's Creed games. I do like Watch Dogs. I heard that Watch Dogs 2 is great, and I do intend to play it fairly soon. And despite them making some silly business decisions, they're still a pretty good video game studio, and do have members of their video game development crew very close to us in Halifax, Nova Scotia, so I wouldn't want anything bad happening to them, especially when they only officially adopted the Ubisoft name a couple of years ago. That said, with the ongoing scandal of their high-up executives doing insider trading, even though they don't admit it, and I mean, who would, things are still not looking great for the French video game publisher and developer. So, anyway, I'm interested in seeing where all of this goes. Not that it's bound to be a very fast process. The last time there was news about Ubisoft being fearful of danger of a hostile takeover by Vivendi and actively seeking out investors within the Canadian business market was sometime back in February of 2016, so the wheels of commerce move slowly, but at this rate, it's really hard to call who exactly is going to be owning Ubisoft by the time that they're ready to push Assassin's Creed into the double digits. I like to keep my ear to the ground on business deals like this, mostly because I've been burned in the past personally by mergers and acquisitions for video game companies. A change in leadership and a change of ownership is always a very rough transitioning point, and a lot of people get laid off down below the executive level, and honestly at the executive level as well. Things really get shaken up, and I'd hate to see the innocent developers down in the lower echelons of companies like Ubisoft end up having to pay the price for the wheeling and dealing up at the corporate level. Not that that doesn't already happen all the time. Anyway, that's it for me for today. I hope that you enjoyed this episode of Serious Sunday, and I do hope that you will join me again next time. But for now, I thank you as always for watching, and I do hope to see you again soon. Take care.